doing any other clients? What kind of clients do you work on besides this?
My first year at R&R, Tony was the writer who I went to school with here. He and I were kind of like the whipping boys, so we were like the new guys. And we worked on 14 different clients our first year there. And I mean, not like because they didn't like us, but because we were just doing a ton of work for everybody. But we worked our way into getting the gig where we're just working on LBCBA now. We got promoted, so we're senior art director and writer on this account, which is just us and a creative director basically working on it now. But when pitches come through, we work on pitches because everybody has to, and we'll chip in ideas because on everything else. Because if you come so we have a couple other clients where if I've got some downtime or something, and I want to, if I have a good idea for another client, I'll still go pitch that idea to the creative director, whether it's something that they can do or not. You never know. But pitches are really kind of where the action is. Honestly, between Vegas and pitches, I don't really have time for anything else right now. And I think that's why I'm getting burned out a little bit in Vegas, because I can only do it for so long. But my writer and I are probably going to leave soon, so get your books in. Yeah. It's a great place to start, honestly. I love that agency. And I like the size of it. The size of it's great because, I mean, it's 150 people. The creative department, there's only 25 of us or so everybody's not out to kill each other. They're not out for, it's a lot, more fun than I think some of these bigger agencies. Not that I won't ever work there or anything, but where everybody's out to kill each other for that one idea, for that one TV spot that gets made. So don't be scared of small shops for sure. Sometimes it'll be a way easier place to get you kickstarted than going to a big shop and get lost. Especially if there's a creative director there you like their work, because that obviously means they're doing something right. So.
How long did it take for you to do your first TV spot? How long were you there?
We got there in June, and they opened up What Happens If Stays Here, I think, in August. And so it's kind of a long process. They usually give you about 6 weeks to concept or something for that, and then between that and all the different rounds of people cutting stuff down and testing, we've kind of finally found that we got 2 of our spots in like December. But so I don't know, 6 months, if that, maybe. I mean, even if if I went to a shop and they had a TV spot, if they had a big TV campaign opening up and I wasn't supposed to be working on it, basically what that means is you're just not allowed to build time against it. You can still work on it. I mean, you can give all your ideas to the creative director. If they suck, he doesn't take them. I mean, you basically just wasted your time. But if he does, you didn't, because they're not. Everybody's out for the best idea. Even creative directors know that. They know even if you're not on their team. I had a buddy that worked at DDB. They got hired at DDB, and he wasn't working on Bud Light. He was working on some other stuff and just banging out, State Farm ads or whatever. And every time a Bud Light assignment came up, he wasn't supposed to be working on it, but he would work on it, he'd keep showing stuff to the creative director, and it was kind of a joke eventually, but he started to get some stuff through, and then they moved him strictly over to the Bud Light campaign, because he just kept working at it. So it's, even if you get hired on to work on a client, I mean, when Tony and I got hired on, we didn't know what we were going to be working on. We just knew that they opened up What Happens Here Stays Here for everybody, and that was going to be our shot, so we took that, because we weren't working on any other LBCBA stuff till then. So you really just got to, find out where you can get in, and then just keep plugging away at that. I mean, you're going to have to do everybody has to do crappy work. I mean, I was making key card holders for the Luxor, and I was making slot tournament flyers for Excalibur and stuff. But eventually, if you keep showing them that you're worth, more than that, they'll put you on the better stuff, because they want the better idea, plus they can build more for your time, so that's their benefit. So. Yeah,
that's a good point, though. Just because you're not briefed or asked to be in the room for the meeting doesn't mean you can't.
Totally.
Yeah, because it says something like, wow, this person is going above and beyond, and that they'll take notice just in and of itself.
Definitely.
Being aggressive about it. Any other questions?
So what was the process like as far as pitching your book out there and getting picked up with R&R? How long?
I started looking in Chicago. I started looking in November, and kind of sucked because it was kind of a sucky time because the holidays are coming up. But I got a lot of contacts out there, and I started showing my stuff around. And right before Christmas, I think, I got some freelance work, and I was working there. And they hired me, but they asked me if I had a writer. I worked with him. Tony he was working at RPA, which used to have an office here in Chicago, but they shut it down. And I knew he wasn't working, so I brought him over. We were freelancing together, and then we split up after the freelance period was over. And I was freelancing somewhere else, and both of us had, my creative director actually had contacted, or our creative recruiter had contacted our Chicago Portfolio School and asked if we had their books. And we sent our books over, and he interviewed us here, and then they flew us out to freelance for a week. And actually, I was freelance at this other place, and it was supposed to be a freelance for a month, and then you get hired kind of deal. And I'd worked there 2 days when I got the call saying, hey, come down to R&R for a week, and we'll see how it goes. And I was like, well, do I quit this thing? I didn't really like the place I was at, but I knew R&R was a better spot. And so I basically just told them this ridiculous amount of money for a day rate, and basically to pull me away from there. And they said, okay. So I was like, all right, well, I'll be getting paid as much as I would over here for a month anyway. So we went down there for a week, and we kind of scoped out what the vibe was there, because the big thing there was, like, at the time, there had been, like, half the department was people that had been at R&R forever. They didn't really care about the work anymore. They were just kind of doing it 9 to 5. And then there was a few other people that had been there a while and had done some decent stuff, but we could kind of even just sense that they wanted to get out of there. And so we're like, none of these people are hungry for any of this stuff. So we were there for a week. They actually put us, all the hotels in Vegas are casinos anyway, so they put us up in this casino. But we just stayed in our room or whatever, worked for the whole first week, and they invited us back for another week. And on the Wednesday of the second week, I think, is when they gave us the job. And so then that Thursday night we went out in Vegas, but other than that, the whole time we were working. So we didn't even get to experience. We were writing ads for Bellagio. We never had stepped foot in the place. So.
And that was like, when the time frame, like March, April?
Yeah, it was like March. So they hired. It was in April. So they hired us in April, and then I told them I couldn't move out till June. So it was like a month, I think. So they had hired me, but I was still living here for about a month before I moved out. And if you get hired somewhere, they'll pay for you to move out there, all that deal. And I didn't have any idea that I'd want to live or move to Vegas, but it was a good opportunity. So, don't be scared about sending your books out. If somebody comes in and says, hey, we're, looking and we're in Omaha, you might as well send your stuff, because A, you get your stuff looked at by somebody anyway. And then B, it's like, they could fly out there for a week freelance, you might like it. You never know, and don't be scared of it. You don't have to live in Chicago or New York or LA. Obviously that's where most of the jobs are, so it's going to naturally pull people there. But there's some weird little shops and outposts. Obviously Raleigh and Richmond and some of those places have good shops there, and so you just got to go. So don't be afraid of not living in Chicago. But yeah, it takes, you just got to keep calling, you got to keep hitting people because they're busy. I talked to these dudes at FCB here in town, and they're like, yeah, we want to bring you in or whatever, but we're going out to do some production or whatever. We'll call you when we get back. Well, they were going on some production shoot that they were gonna be out of town for like 2 months, So what am I supposed to do, So I was like, all right, whatever. You just got to keep calling other people. So I started calling other people at that agency. I'm like, look, these guys want to bring me in. They're gone for 2 months. Throw me a bone or whatever. And the biggest thing is just asking them to look at your stuff. Most of the time, they're not hiring, even though they kind of are. They always are. But just ask, even if it's an ACD, whoever, just get your book in front of somebody, because if they like you, they'll put your book in front of somebody else who might put your book in front of the person who actually is hiring. So honestly, just doesn't matter what state your book's in, doesn't matter any of that stuff. Just get your book in front of people. Because you're constantly going to be changing it, especially like student book. Once you have like finished, produced work, like you can't really change it all that much because everybody knows that's not what ran, But some of the stuff like this stuff is some stuff we did for Atomic Testing Museum. When Tony and I first got to R&R, like I said, we weren't working on all the great stuff, so we actually went and found this client and did this work on our own, just as a kind of spec work, but we took it to the Atomic Testing Museum. They said they loved it, so they actually paid to print posters, and then they were paying client of R&R. So we brought a client to R&R, and then this stuff, it was highlighted at CA. It was like some other stuff, it was in. I think one of them was in like Print Regional Design Annual, which surprises me because I didn't really like the design, but you never know what's going to happen. So that's the other thing too, is even like we're still kind of doing student work. It's just spec work, but we have more resources. Like I found a photographer that was willing to shoot that stuff for me for free, just because he knew that I would throw him the bone with some other crappy work, some other, the way he could actually get paid for it. So